You're listening to the British Baseball Podcast. Hello baseball fans, Matt here with just a little bit of a bonus episode. I know I said I'd wrap it up-ish last week with the season roundup, but I've got a lot of people to thank for season one and especially for making this come to light. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a bonus episode just in case you're all missing my voice, which I highly doubt. So yeah, people to thank on this episode. So I'm going to wind it all the way back to the beginning. I know there's like 50 episodes, so don't worry, this isn't going to be like an Oscar speech that goes on for days, hopefully. Touch wood. I'm going to start at the very beginning. Carlos, who does the Manchester Grassroots football podcast. My colleague at work who used to sit in front of me before I was confined to at-home working. One of the funniest people I know. Great guy to bounce ideas off. I know Phil's the brains of the operation behind his show. But yeah, if it wasn't for him showing me how easy it was to do a podcast on the fly and to sort of spur me on and motivate me to do the British Baseball Podcast, I don't think the show would have even got off the ground. So cheers, Carlos. Nice one. Joel Watkins, who's my first proper guest after the botched roundup of British baseball history that was me in my car with my mobile. Joel was the first person I had the pleasure of speaking to from BSUK about the coaching summit. And what was really frustrating in this instance is not only was I a bag of nerves because I'd never done this before properly, is that I was trying to set up a meeting within my phone to record at the beginning of the show. In its infancy, everything was recorded through the app on my mobile phone. And that also meant all the editing was done through the app on the mobile phone as well, which I'll come to later on. So it must have took maybe 5-6 attempts to try and set up this phone call. And then there was all the issues with delays, and I was just worried that I sounded like I was cutting off in mid-conversations. It was, if anything was to say you shouldn't be doing a podcast, it was that episode. But Joel was brilliant at calming me down, reassurances. You know, the backing from BSUK after the back of that episode as well was superb. So thank you, Joel. That was memorable for all the reasons for me. I'm glad that you said you had a good time. Yeah, I really appreciate it, and being my first guest as well, it means a lot. And then Kevin and Lisa McAdam, who I got speaking to Lisa because we worked at the same business, a bit at other parts of the country. Found out that they're involved in British baseball. Got talking to them that way. Got introduced to Kevin, and they literally opened up their phone book with contacts to get me some amazing guests early on, for the likes that I would never dream of being able to do. So like Josh and Vince. Like literally, I sat there after speaking to Kevin, and the amount of WhatsApp message groups that just popped up with just contacts and people wanting to talk and do things, and it was just overwhelming. I don't think I've spoken to all of them either as well. It was just, yeah, it was brilliant, and I'll be forever grateful for that, because without them, who knows where this show could have been or gone in that direction. And that brings on to the legend that is Josh Chetwynd. They say you should never meet your heroes. Josh, I was that nervous about speaking to Josh. Obviously, I knew of Josh from his time on Channel 5. I used to watch it. And again, just still being wet behind the ears and being very nervous, I asked Josh Chetwynd how to say his name. I have like a list, like a tick list of things that I go through to when I'm doing my podcast to make sure that I get things right. The topics that we go through, how to say the guest name correctly. Even though I knew it was, I was just reading just because I was that nervous down my list of things to do, and yeah, that was embarrassing. But should I edit that bit out? Nah, let's leave it in. But yeah, he was brilliant. And again, going back to the issues with the phone, I think it was like a 30-minute episode, because this was still the time when I was doing drive time episodes. So everything was around about 30 minutes before lockdown kicked in. And then I literally had to go into the audio wave format on my phone after recording with Josh, and to try and edit out using my fingers and slide tools to cut out. I mean, it's a lot easier now than doing it with a proper setup on my laptop with proper media tools. Well, back then it was just horrendous, and it was the day of the Super Bowl as well. And I finished recording with Josh at dinner time, and it was 3:00 in the morning, and I was still editing a 30-minute episode. So yeah, it was quite chaotic back in the day, in the early days. So I've learned a lot since then, and hopefully I've grown a lot since then as well. Then Ian Blease, who one of the first people straight off the bat to offer support to the show. He was so knowledgeable and some great advice as well. I had the pleasure of meeting him at the Battle for Britain as well when he was representing the Northern Knights. He's come up with some great listener questions too. And if there's anyone out there that's looking to interview a guest, or you want somebody interesting to just talk to about baseball, Blease is up there with him. He's such a great guy. I really enjoyed talking to him. Hopefully I'll get to work with him again in 2021. And then that brings us up to Will Linton, who was the first guest that I think I remember speaking to face to face. I think I'd moved from recording into Anchor, then to Skype or another platform. Yeah, I think it's Skype, to record the interviews with, to try and make it a bit more easy. And I think that's the first time that I probably felt a bit more at ease, because it was a face-to-face. I could actually see my guests I was talking to. And also the first time I was properly open with my guest about my head injury and the issues that I've surrounded my concentration, memory and stuff, which if you've been on the show, you'll know this, so you're probably sick of hearing it, but not many people know this. So I literally have to write everything down, talking with my memory and my concentration from the accident. It's just one or two of a long list of things that happened. So I was really concerned, because I was speaking to Will, who's involved in the GB setup, and I'm sorry, waffling on now. I was very aware that I was speaking to somebody, not that the other guests weren't important, but that I was speaking to somebody properly, and I had to explain why I was probably looking away or writing and not giving someone my full attention. And he was brilliant with it. And I think that made me even more relaxed with him understanding where I was coming from. And I think it's probably the smoothest interview that I'd done at that time. Not smooth as in like just talking and feeling a bit more natural. But Will was brilliant, like so much advice and content there that when I was looking at the time that was going, and especially with listener questions too, I can't have this as just a 30-minute episode. So I'll cut into 2 because I just didn't have the heart to delete or remove anything. It was just so good. And even away from the podcast as well, like Will's been brilliant with some great advice, dad advice. And I remember saying that I wasn't sure what I was going to do when the podcast wrapped. And about 3 minutes later, there was a DM in my Twitter from Will saying, right, well, here you go. Here's some ideas of what you can do to keep yourself busy in off season. And that's where the documentary ideas have come from. Just so much that the guy is so passionate about the sport and everything around British baseball. So I'm forever grateful to Will for that one. Gabor Erdos, incredible insight into umpiring, great chat off the record too about British baseball, so much knowledge, and I think it was just really interesting to hear from an umpire. He did some great sessions as well for the BBF umpiring webinars. Charlie Baffo, just for the way that I can pronounce his name and the way he lets me get away with it. I'm sure that'll be different if we met in the field. Such a fun guy. Really enjoyed chatting to Charlie off of baseball topics and just in general. Really nice dude. It was really interesting to hear how they sort of set up the Bruins too. That was really good insight. But yeah, it's just really nice guy. Enjoyed chatting to him. Vince Garcia, another one that Kevin put me on to. Never realised how big and involved Vince was until it unravelled. I suppose that's one of the things with being really new to this sport in this country, is that everybody seems to know and get along with everybody in some regards. And the community itself is quite strong, quite close-knit group. I think I've sort of had a bit of imposter syndrome about me because I've never really felt like I'd fit in properly, because I'm still trying to get to learn everybody. But everyone's been so welcoming and genuine and open it's not felt that bad. But you know, meeting people for the first time and knowing everybody knows them, it was really eye-opening, because when Vince was just chatting about the stuff, and I found myself not making notes and just listening, and just being like, wow, this is really interesting, really incredible stuff. And then we start rolling, and he starts telling me about the pinch hit and run stuff and all his TV work off the record. Well, it wasn't really off the record. It was what he did. We just didn't talk about when we record him, and it was just brilliant. It's just so funny. And probably one of the times I thought I should have left recording just a little bit longer. Andy Brown. Oh, Andy Brown. Amazing, talented artist. You've probably seen that he's decorated, or will have, once this office space has been done up. All of the guys' work. He's such a top guy. He's as good an artist as a human. He's top guest. It's funny that one of my favourite guests to talk to wasn't really a baseball player or coach. He was an artist. He's so much fun. And one of the people that I've kept in touch with away from the show as well. Even came down to Essex for the Battle for Britain to see me on my birthday weekend, which was cool, because I know it was about an hour and a half drive for him to do. He did some painting while he was down there, so he managed to mix a bit of business in there too. But another guy that I've got a lot of time for. He's great dude. Love him to bits. The Bruins, again, Tim, Josh, and Kelly, when they're over in Spain, for doing some great stuff and great insight into their club. Tim as well, for staying in touch away from the show too, with some great ideas and some episode ideas that I'm hoping will come to fruition in season 2, and hopefully his own podcast will take off the ground as well. He's got some great ideas, a lot of great ideas. If you're ever after some videography or stuff of that nature surrounding baseball or anything, Tim French is probably one of the people to talk to, because he's done some great stuff on the Bruins YouTube channel, on the BrewTube. You should check that out. Then it brings us to Liam Carroll. I could do a whole podcast giving thanks to Liam himself, and no matter what I say now, on the next however long, he's going to do him any justice. But I mean, coming on the show, talking again, I'm still bagging nerves when I'm doing these interviews. Having a GB national team manager, I find it funny that my partner always says, would you imagine in December of 2019 you'd be talking to the Great Britain national team manager? And I still can't believe I've managed to speak to as many people as I have. You're all the best. But yeah, Liam was so good, such a great guest. My mic wasn't working because I had it on mute to start with for the first 10 minutes to try and talk to him, so great first impressions there. And I mean, after we finished chatting, he stayed in touch, get the phone call off him every now and then, a couple of text messages, see how we're getting on, ideas, stuff he wants to run past me for, like, well, I say to run past me, I'm not saying that he's confiding me, but I should have said the other way around, ideas that I've had for the show that I've been able to run past him, which have been superb, because he's offered feedback and help and assistance, and he is every bit the great guy that everyone makes him out to be. And I hope that wherever he is now and whatever he's doing at this moment in time of recording, that he's happy and he's enjoying life and he's safe and well. So thanks, Liam, for all your hard work. The Inspire, Develop, Perform mantra is flowing through this show, hopefully. John Eaton and the UK blind baseball team. John's my coach in Manchester, and when he told me about blind baseball, I had to know more straight away. I had to know more about it. Such a great way to get more people playing the sport, and when you see them training and the videos of them doing what they do, you can't help but be inspired and motivated. And great group of people, and I'm hoping to be able to bring some more of their doings as time goes on. So keep up the great work, UK Blind Baseball. Paul Gonvoy, President of Baseball Scotland. Love chatting Scottish baseball. Scotland's one of my favourite places, and just have insight from up there. I love Paul. Great dude. It's just so good to listen to him talk about his stuff too. Chris Ward, giving kids homework in baseball, I thought was a really strange idea, and that's what led me to talking to him. He's such a funny and brilliant dude. Guildford, I think, are really lucky to have someone like him on their books. And he also does a Yankees podcast, which is really hard to listen to when it's about Yankees. It's sort of like having your favourite celebrity chef make you a sprout vindaloo, and you don't know you should be happy or gutted. But yeah, when we did the Lancashire Legends podcast with J Rod, and we did it as a round table in a bar sort of scenario environment, I wasn't expecting to have as much fun as I did, but I think the fact that there's a little bit of ale involved and a lot of fun. Chris is just one of the guys I could talk to about anything really for days. He's such a great character. Drew Spencer, current GB national team manager, another guy who I admire and couldn't wait to get on the show. He's probably one of my favourite people to chat to in baseball and outside of baseball as well. He invited me to the E-League that they got going on for MLB The Show 20. So much knowledge and advice, and I'm really excited to see what he does with the national team. I think it's in safe hands. I think a lot of people were shocked when Liam stepped down, but were any worries or fears that they had were probably put to the side when they heard that Drew was taking over. And invited me to coaching forums. I had the pleasure of meeting Drew when we went down to the BBF Open Tournament in Slough at Farnham Park, and I so desperately wanted to shake his hand, but I couldn't because of restrictions. So we rubbed elbows, and on top of that, he bought me a beer, which I was very grateful for, especially with like landing prices. I'll treat you to a Weatherspoons if you ever come up north, Drew. I'll be able to get rounds in for days then for the same money you spent on my one beer. But yeah, I love Drew. Great guy. One of my favourite guests, and hopefully I'll have him on again soon. Ronan Weinberg up at the Field of Dreams sites. Thank you for indulging in my silliness. I'm still waiting for entrepreneur bored billionaire to come in and buy me a farm so we can open up a big baseball centre with a dome and floodlights and everything up in Manchester. BJ Di Lorenzo for his insight into his career and general chit chat. Harvey Soccer for broadening my knowledge of baseball history in Britain. Great book, bought that, been scanning through it, need to read it properly. Another great and fascinating guest, so thank you, Harvey, there. Chris Knobloch and Andreas Fock for talking about difficult subjects of mental health, and also to Chris for being in touch throughout the year as well. Another person got in touch early on when I was doing the podcast, using his position in BS UK to give me insight and advice, and also with his career he's done within podcasting himself and like presentation and stuff. It was really, really helpful. Hopefully you managed to hear the advice and knowledge passed on to me as I grew as a podcaster or a host, I suppose. You're probably thinking no. I'm definitely thinking no around about this time. But yeah, Chris was great with some advice, and Andreas as well. So thank you for that. Doris Hocking, the ladies national team manager for Great Britain. I'll forever be grateful for you to allow me to break your special news. I know there could have been many other platforms that probably done a better job, but you chose me, and I am forever grateful for that, and I appreciate it, and I'm so excited to see what you're going to do in the future, and I look forward to covering it as well. Jonathan Crammon, another top guy who I could talk to about anything really, and listen to talk to about baseball until the cows come home. He's so many great stories and knowledge and insight, and just fascinating. Really enjoyed talking to him. J-Rod, where do I start with the inspirational human espresso that is Jonathan Rodriguez? He's such a great personality. I met him in December at one of the first training sessions in Manchester, and he looked like he knew what he was doing. So me being a nervous rookie, sort of tried to get near him so I could partner up with him, but he obviously saw through my inabilities and diviness, and I thought I scared him off, and then never did I realise that like 6 months later he'd be a guest on my show, and he's even invited me out to Burnley for a night out and a steak. It sounds like a bad joke, doesn't it? A guy from Southern California and a Salfordian walk into a pub. I'm sure it'll be a great riot. But yeah, so many ideas and immense passion coming from that guy, and I'm just excited to see what goes on. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have asked about getting into coaching myself and trying to help out my own club. So yeah, thanks J-Rod, this is your fault. That's a word that seems to be said a lot on the show, it's your fault. Well, yeah, very big thank you. John McKellar and Jason Durr from the Ball Caps and Bagpipes podcast up in Scotland. Two of my favourite dudes again. They're an awesome pair doing an awesome job of representing Scottish baseball, and their show is brilliant and inspirational, and it is a show that's been, the foundation's been built on passion, and you can hear it when you listen to their show. Jason for my increased baseball card collection and wardrobe, for his Dugout Classics, and for getting me involved in the Negro League Museum Project fundraiser, which was a riot. You know, there's so many great guests there that I managed to speak to about the artwork. Fantastic artists, and a lot of money raised as well for charity. Richard Broughton, another awesome dude over in the States at Duke University. Pleasure talking and chatting. Some great advice off and tips offered there from Richard too. Ryan Ferguson, the author. I'm glad he reached out to me because I love chatting to him about his book and mental health. And one thing a lot of people don't know about me is that I am a failing attempting to write children's books. I am author-ish. I did a course on how to write kids' books, and about the time that I had my head injury, and that really put like a block on a lot of creativity and being able to remember things, and it's been a struggle. And one of the things that I thought the podcast was going to do was help me to be more creative and trying to get ideas flowing and hopefully lead into writing again. And who knows where that path will take me. But yeah, it was great to bounce ideas and get tips off Ryan. If you haven't read his work, you should check out his website. Really good dude. Josh, Johnny and Eric from the Josh and Johnny show. Again, if it was a drive time episode of 30 minutes would have been impossible. It was literally stick 50p in the machine and watch it go. And it was really good fun just to sit there and listen to them chat like it was the old days. And then the sort of fan in me kicked in as soon as we finished, and I bricked it and had a bit of a meltdown, and just realising that I was part of something there that was like back in the day. It's hard to explain. But yeah, it was just really good fun being part of that moment. Laura Harai and Cami Kidder and Doris again for highlighting so much around the Women in Baseball and Women in Baseball Week. That was a great time. Bristol Baseball Club, Richard, Roddy, and Molly. Superb ideas, great insight into both baseball club and just a great people to talk to down there. The Dutch Destroyer, the Duchess Hassan is DJ Paul Kirkpatrick. Absolute funny dude. I'd love to see him play some domestic baseball over in Britain. Who knows what the future will allow that with things that are going on at the moment. But again, another great guy, and love chatting with Paul. Dan Sewell and Martin Maloney from the Southwest Baseball League. Was it? No, I'm lying to you. East of England Baseball League. Such a great chat with them too. Martin with his giant bottle of beer that looked like he was swigging from a wine bottle. That was one of my highlights of that conversation. And meeting Dan at Battle for Britain as well. That was good fun. John Boyd, who I was absolutely bricking it before I was talking to John, especially considering I'd opened this up to listener questions too, which was an overwhelming amount of response. And some of the questions in there were I was a bit worried about asking, but you know, John didn't veto any of the questions and he answered them all. And I really enjoyed chatting with him before we hit record and afterwards as well. And that's where the seed was planted with some further discussions that we had, and led to him coming on the show again to talk about what could have happened if baseball was in the Olympics. He's doing some good work there with BS UK. John Carter, that was great to see him at Battle for Britain as well. Again, more insight, introduced me to amazing people down there. It was really good fun speaking with John. The Lancashire Legends and Matt Moran as well, for your time on and off the field. Again, passion, energy, enthusiasm, fun, some great future talent there, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do in future. The man that is Gavin Marshall, like many interviews, this was another one that I just didn't want to end. Talking to Gavin was an absolute joy. And my bottle went properly again when I was starting to do the recording, and I was worried I was going to trip over my words because of the magnitude of the guest sort of hit me like I'm talking to one of the greats in British baseball, and then it's like, oh, I hope he likes this, I hope I don't mess it up, I hope I don't forget to ask anything. Again, another great guy that sort of taught me off the legend and was just superb. Got to meet him down at Battle for Britain as well, and one of the highlights of my weekend was seeing him pitch to my 3-year-old. I'll never forget that. It was just amazing. Hopefully it could be one of them things where I look back on in a couple of years' time if my little one decides he wants to play baseball, and I can go, look, that's you with the Gavin Marshall. Yeah, he's got some great ideas too for what he wants to do in British baseball that hopefully can help out with. Earl Dix. Earl's been a great supporter of this show for a long time. Great to have him as a guest for his insight and his time within the British Baseball Federation and his life, and for just continuing to give me listener questions and support. Paul and Jess Vernon, more legends of the game, and up and coming legend as well, I suppose. Top insight into their careers and sports and management, and for their training sessions that I've been invited to. I'm sorry I've not been able to attend as many as I'd like to, but I'm trying. Richard Chesterton, for dressing up like a knight and looking really interesting to talk to at the Battle for Britain. He took me on a tour of the Essex Hours Clubhouse, told me about the history of the show, introduced me to more people. I said in history of the show, I meant history of their club. And again, great to get to speak to him and have him on as a guest, because I didn't really know who Richard was. Again, I don't know many people within the community. I know Richard will be a well-known person to everyone who's listening. But for him to be open and give me insight into the club and his relationship with his dad and his dad's involvement, it was heartwarming. It was amazing, and again, another superb chat. I'm glad that I got to speak to you and meet you. And then that sort of brought us towards the end of the show. And His Lordship Lord Jack Ford Lane for being really good fun. His insight into Bracknell baseball and the likes. But yeah, there's a few more bits and pieces to go before the year's out. Still waiting on one guest to confirm due to a busy schedule. So when I said the last show was the last show-ish, hopefully that will be, it might even be a Christmas special, who knows. But yeah, for those that have given the time up for weekly roundups and for giving me so much fun this last year, thank you so much. To all the coaches and players for helping me in my training, whether it's in person, John, Colin, Johnny, Jake and Scott in Manchester Baseball, the coaches from around the country, for offering me advice and support with my DMs and offering feedback and PDFs and breakdowns of everything with my swing. You know, for a 40-year-old guy that never thought he was going to amount so much in this sport, for you to give me that much time devotion just shows what a great position the rest of British baseball can be if you can spare an old knackered dude like me. That, you know, I'll never forget it. The youth of this country are going to thrive. My Manchester Baseball Club teammates and coaches, again, this is your fault. Thank you for being so welcoming at that taste today, and the clubhouse watching the 2019 London series. You definitely touched a nerve and something that just got me excited for baseball in Britain. To the Backflip and Nerds crew for the advice. They literally welcomed me straight in, open arms, supportive, right from the beginning. Rachel for pointing me in the direction of free journalist courses. Darius for fantasy baseball help. I finished 0-6, I think. So sorry, but you tried. And to John and Tom as well for their friendship, advice, baseball coffee mornings, just chats, phone calls, support, the plugs, not bad plugs, but like the show. Just a really good group of people that I really can't wait to see more of and chat to in person when I can. Steve from Reading the Game, Chumilla from Listen to the Film. Just two shout outs I'd like to give to two really good people as well. And to you, the listeners and the viewers. Without you, this show doesn't happen. The feedback, the tips, advice, the guest ideas, the listener questions, this is all for you. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been what you've been expecting. I don't know. I suppose I've really enjoyed doing the content and the products. I just hope that you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. And as always, any feedback and tips and suggestions, BritishBaseballPodcast@gmail.com or @BritBaseballPod across social medias. I'm always open to feedback. And I suppose the last people I've got to thank are my family and so my better half, Jocelyn, and the little one. I would say that I'd do this show for as long as it didn't impact family life, home life. At no point has it ever been made like it's getting in the way of any sort of commitments or any family time. For, like I said at the beginning, like a 30-minute episode was taking me hours to try and edit, like well into the morning, to try and get it up and running for as early as possible on a Monday. So we have sacrificed a bit, but it's never been made to feel like I'm getting in the way of anything. The support that I've had for this show and the constant being pushed and driven to be better and bigger and to not rest on my laurels, it all starts at home, and I'm forever thankful for that. To drive down to Essex on my birthday weekend when it's like 8 degrees and being ready to go for the first game at 8 o'clock in the morning with a 3-year-old. It's not a one-person operation. That's a lot of help and support, all for me to help give you this content. Having like a full day to drive down to Slough to record baseball and interview people. We're very much a team, and just being allowed to express myself and go and explore and do what I need to do to bring content. I couldn't do it without you. And she keeps saying to me, like, could you imagine in December when you're thinking about this, you would have spoke to X, Y, and Z. And she's right. You guys have been superb, and it's been a hell of a ride. 2020 for a lot of bad things and a lot of great things, and a lot of great things stem from you lot, and I really appreciate it. So, what's in store next? Need to get a website sorted. Hopefully I'll bring some live games, university coverage, interviews, topics, themes throughout the months, more history of baseball, coaching, documentaries, lots and lots and lots and lots. So my off season is going to be just as busy as it ever was. So now the season is wrapped, for next season, it's time to reflect and to see like what can we as individuals that are involved in British baseball do to raise the bar in 2021. What can you do to help out your club more? How can you get the sport to grow a bit better? I'm not saying it's like homework, you have to listen to what I'm saying. I'm not like a preacher of a cult or anything, but I've had a lot of feedback from people getting in touch asking where they can find local ball clubs and saying they've attended training sessions based off of recommendations from people. So we can help grow this sport ourselves and make it bigger. So let's see what we can do. So yeah, maybe there's something to think about in the off-season. Also, if you want to be part of the British Baseball Podcast in 2021, or if there's somebody at your club that you think would be a great guest or should have their story heard, please get in touch. Like I said before, BritishBaseballPodcast@gmail.com or DM me at BritBaseballPod on Twitter. And as mentioned before, this is an endish episode. The one guest is still waiting to confirm. I'll let you all know when that's happening because there'll definitely be listeners' questions involved in that. But for now, that's me. Have a great rest of the year. Hope you have a safe Christmas. DMs are always open if anyone needs to chat about anything. But it's ta-ra for now.